Assalamualaikum, we are Group 3 and today we will be covering quoting the Maxim and Hedges. These are our group members and these are the topics that will be covered in this presentation.
Flouting the maxims means a speaker purposely breaks the rules of conversation to send a hidden message. This is not an accident, but it is done on purpose. Normally, we expect people to follow the maxims, and where they do, we understand their meaning clearly. But when someone clearly does not follow the maxims, we treat it as a float, which tells us there is another meaning behind their words. Next, floating the quantity maxim. It happens when someone gives too little or too much information on purpose. They do this so the listener can understand a hidden meaning. For example, if a person writes a testimonial with only 2 short lines, it is clearly not enough information because normally a testimonial should be long and detailed. This makes us guess that the writer does not think highly of that person. Another example, if someone asks, "What time is it?" and the answer is, "It's 2 o'clock, 4 past 2, and it is Sunday." That is too much information. The speaker is showing that they want to appear very precise or punctual. So overall, this maxim is floated when the amount of information is intentionally not suitable for the situation. Next, we're moving on to the floating the quality maxim. It happens when someone says something that is clearly not true and they do it on purpose so we understand a hidden meaning. So, Greece gives several examples such as irony, metaphor, meiosis, and also hyperbole. So, next, we're moving on to the irony examples. So, like when someone misses the ball in tennis and you say, "Great shot!" You don't mean it literally, but the real meaning is that it was a bad shot. Next is metaphor, such as "you are a pain in the neck," which means someone is annoying, or maybe he is a pillar of strength, meaning he is very supportive. So these are not literally true, but we understand the message. Another type is understatement or meiosis. For example, when someone saying, "I was a little bit lucky," after the person wins a huge prize. The hidden meaning is that the person was actually very lucky. We also have hyperbole, which is exaggeration. For example, "I paid a fortune," when something was only a bit expensive. The real meaning is simply that it cost a lot. So, the last example is from Princess Diana interview session. She said, "There were 3 people in this marriage." Literally, this is false because a marriage has only related to 2 people. But the hidden meaning is that a third person, which was Camilla, that involved in their relationship. So overall, floating the quality maxim means saying something untrue on purpose to communicate a deeper message.
Next, we proceed to flouting the maxim of relation. Flouting the maxim of relation occurs when a speaker intentionally provides a response that is irrelevant to the question or statement. This deliberate irrelevance is typically used either to create humor or to avoid addressing a sensitive or uncomfortable topic. So for the tea party example, we can see a clear case of flouting the maxim of relation. Speaker A says, "Mrs. A is an old bag." So Speaker B responds with silence and they says, "The weather has been quite delightful this summer." In this situation, Speaker B completely avoids commenting on A's rude remark. Instead of responding to the insult, B abruptly shifts to an unrelated topic, the weather. And this deliberate irrelevance shows that B is flouting the maxim of relation, and the humor arises from the sudden change of subject and the implied discomfort for refusal to engage with A's inappropriate statement. Another example of flouting the maxim of relation can be seen in the exchange between the army officer and Nedi Sigon. The officer asks, "Sex?" which in this context means asking for Nedi's gender. So Nedi responds, "Yes, please." Here, Nedi intentionally misinterprets the question. Instead of giving the relevant answer, male or female, he treats the question as an invitation for sexual activity. This creates an irrelevant and absurd response. The humor comes from this deliberate misunderstanding, which clearly flouts the maxim of relation. Another illustration of flouting the maxim of relation appears in the old-fashioned boarding house joke. The landlady asks, "What do you want?" And the man replies, I want to stay here. The landlady responds, well, stay there. In this exchange, the man's statement is meant to express that he wants accommodation. However, the landlady interprets his answer literally, as if he is referring to his physical position. This creates an irrelevant and humorous response, and the misunderstanding highlight how flouting the maxim of relation can produce comedic effect. Now, we move on to flouting the maxim of manner. Flouting the maxim of manner occurs when a speaker deliberately communicates in a vague, ambiguous, or obscure way. This technique can be used to create humor, make slogans memorable, or to prevent certain audiences, such as children, from fully understanding the message. An example of flouting the maxim of manner can be seen in the slogan, "Go to work on an egg." The slogan is deliberately ambiguous and it could be interpreted as "eat an egg before going to work," but the sentence structure is unclear. Advertisers use this ambiguity to make the slogan more memorable. The purpose of this flouting is to demonstrate creativity and wordplay. Another example of flouting the maxim of manner is seen in this exchange. Parent A says, let's go to that place we talked about yesterday. Here, the parent intentionally avoids naming the place, making the message deliberately vague. The purpose is to prevent the children from understanding. The implication is clear. I don't want the children to know what we are planning. And this shows how flouting the maxim of manner can be used to obscure information.
Moving on next, we are learning about hedges. Other than flouting the maxims, speaker can also opt to hedge the maxims. So hedges are especially used by speaker when they might be violating the maxim. It happens when insert words or phrases are used to show that they are uncertain, unsure, or being vague of their utterance. Hedges also do not add any true value to the conversation. So there are 4 types of hedges, and the first one is quantity hedges. So quantity hedges are expressed to indicate uncertainty about the amount, degree, or extent about the truth of a statement. And it has 3 purposes. The first one is to show uncertainty. The second one is to avoid making false claim. And the third one is to avoid making exaggeration. These are a few examples of quantity hedges. In the first example, we can see that the speaker is using the idiom "as far as I know" to show that they are uncertain about the statement. In the second example, we can see that the speaker is using the phrase "may have some," which indicating that they are not sure whether their information could be helpful or not. Next is quality hedges. Quality hedges are expressed to indicate uncertainty about the truth of the statement. The purpose is to make assumptions, to avoid making absolute claim, to maintain clarity, and to be polite. These are a few examples of quality hedges. In the first example, we can see that the speaker is using the phrase "I don't think" to show that their utterance is not entirely true. In the second example, we can see that the speaker is assuming to show respect for the listener by using the phrase "must be."
Next, I will start with hedges of relation. These are expressions speakers use when they feel that what they are about to say may not be fully relevant to the main topic. Speakers use this type of hedges to warn the listener before shifting the topic, to soften the impact of going slightly off track, and also to maintain politeness in conversation. Next is relation hedges example. For first example, the speaker signals I might be going off topic. Second example, the speaker is admitting that the next point might not be fully related. The listener understands that the speaker is aware they are about to be relevant, so they should not expect a directly related answer. Next is hedges of manner. These hedges show that the speaker knows their explanation may be unclear, complicated, or lacking detail. They help to lower the listener's expectations, show uncertainty, and warn the listener about possible confusion. Next is manner hedges example. For first example, this signals that the speaker may not explain well. For second example, the speaker is acknowledging the difficulty of their explanation. The speaker is softening the fact that they are not being completely clear, helping the listener adjust their expectations. Flouting and hedges show that people often communicate indirectly. We break maxims or use softening words to express meanings beyond the literal message.